Good Tuesday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. So very happy to see you with us here. And good morning to our friend Miller as well.
Well, good morning, Victoria. I hear you had your GoPro on the top of your head as you were driving in this morning. I think we've got some recorded video coming from the front of Victoria's car this morning. I don't know if we can pop that up there. Our wonderful director, Rob. This is what it looked like. Downtown Billings. My goodness.
No, it's
No,
not
that's actually in Des Moines,
Billings.
Iowa. We're not dealing with any of that, but we do have a little bit of snow on the ground out there. We could still see some, in fact, we're still seeing some light flurries out there at the moment. Big story is the fog. Stay away from the fog, John Carpenter. 18 degrees right now at the Billings Airport. Feels like 9. Winds out of the northeast at about 17 miles an hour. Temperatures around the state in the teens. We've got some single digits up there in northeastern corner of Montana where wind chills could get below like negative 35. Wow. Also, we've got some teens and some single digits and some 20s in northern Wyoming. Yeah, best chance for dense fog. You can see the area surrounded there in purple where visibility could be less than half a mile this morning, maybe some locally slick roads as well. And so just slow down. Do not use your high beams. Make sure you got your low beams on this morning. Maybe leave a few extra minutes for your morning commute so you can take your time getting to where you got to go. And also stay back a couple car lengths back from the vehicle in front of you might be a good idea. It's going to be another day where we're going to stay below average. Yesterday we got into the low 20s. We'll try to warm up maybe a little bit more today. And then speaking of a warm up, we've got milder temperatures moving forward in the week, maybe looking at some 50s by the time we get to the weekend, Victoria.
Not too bad. All right, Miller, thank you so much. I'll get on to the news. We begin this Tuesday with the latest COVID-19 news as the slow vaccine rollout continues. Yellowstone County will get less than half of the vaccines requested here. 1,100 doses will be all that's available this week. Billings Clinic will get the most at just 975. St. Vincent Healthcare was not allocated any doses. Hospital officials aren't sure why they were left out, but they will not be able to book any appointments this week. Yellowstone County Health Officer John Felton calls the allocation across the state disappointing, woefully inadequate, and unpredictable. Although the number of vaccines is low, demand is high. Yesterday alone, Billings Clinic was hit with 27,000 calls from area residents hoping to get immunized. The hospital's CEO says they are totally overwhelmed, even after hiring 35 people last week simply to deal with vaccine-related calls. Billings Clinic will now hire a third-party operator. Officials say they want to get everyone vaccinated as soon as possible, but right now that's out of their control.
We're at the mercy of the national distribution. This is not a state of Montana issue. It's not a Billings Clinic issue. It's a federal issue. There's just not enough supply yet.
And you can track how many vaccines are coming into the state. Governor Greg Gianforte launched a new statewide COVID-19 vaccine dashboard. So far, it shows more than 77,000 vaccine doses have been administered and nearly 15,000 Montanans are fully immunized. The dashboard can be found on the State Response COVID-19 website. Despite the so far lackluster rollout, President Biden said he hopes to increase vaccinations against the coronavirus to 1.5 million Americans a day. The president had campaigned on a promise to deliver 100 million shots in his first 100 days in office, but now says the country can and must do better. COVID-19 has now claimed the lives of more than 421,000 people in the U.S. Another problem standing in the way of the administration's plan: syringes. The world's largest syringe maker says it can't keep up with the demand. The company, Becton Dickinson, doesn't have the capacity to increase supplies in the United States. Becton Dickinson says it will still make sure the U.S. receives 286 million syringes, but it will take time. Now we go to Helena, where 4 bills restricting abortions in Montana are advancing in the State House of Representatives. Pro-life groups gathered outside the Capitol yesterday to celebrate. They feel after 16 straight years of Democrat governors, pro-life issues will be furthered under Governor Greg Gianforte. Meanwhile, pro-choice advocates also made sure their voices were heard. They believe these bills could be deemed unconstitutional in court.
These bills represent the worst kind of government overreach, placing the government between patients and the medical care they deserve, criminalizing medical professionals, and attempting to scare and intimidate patients with outrageous misinformation.
There is precedent for this pro-choice claim. Similar abortion legislation in other states have been struck down in a federal court. And the House voted on a pair of bills surrounding transgender youth and school athletes in Montana. It passed a bill that says school athletes in Montana must compete on teams that align with their sex at birth. And in a close 53-47 vote, the House approved a bill barring anyone under 18 from treatment or surgery for a sex change. The bills face final House votes this week and will likely go to the state Senate for consideration. In court news, a Columbia Falls man is sentenced to pay nearly $70,000 after being found guilty of removing a Ten Commandments statue from the lawn of the Flathead County Courthouse. Anthony Weimer must pay the restitution to reimburse insurance policies used to replace the monument. Weimer wrapped chains around the statue, pulled it out of the ground behind his pickup truck, then dragged it into the middle of the street. He was given a deferred 3-year sentence and released on his own recognizance. In Missoula, a new lawsuit is forcing city leaders to rethink an ordinance banning the sale of flavored e-cigarettes and vape products in the city. The new law passed last November and was supposed to go into effect yesterday, but the mayor was served a lawsuit that morning. Now Missoula leaders are pushing the date of the ordinance back to May 1st. The mayor says he believes the legislature will make it a statewide law, and if that happens, it will make the ordinance meaningless and save the city thousands in legal fees. In national news, Democrats moved the impeachment process of President Donald Trump forward yesterday when they sent the single article to the Senate. CBS's Naomi Ruckham brings us the latest on the proceedings.
House managers delivered an article of impeachment against former President Trump to the Senate for a historic second time.
Donald John Trump engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors by inciting violence against the government of the United States.
Lead impeachment manager Jamie Raskin read the article accusing Mr. Trump of inciting the Capitol riot.
He also willfully made statements that in context encouraged and foreseeably resulted in lawless action at the Capitol, such as,
"And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore."
The article of impeachment also notes the former president's rhetoric leading up to January 6th.
They're not taking this White House. We're going to fight like hell, I'll tell you right now.
He threatened the integrity of the democratic system, interfered with the peaceful transition of power, and imperiled a co-equal branch of government.
President Biden told CNN off camera that he doesn't think there are enough Republican votes needed to convict, but the trial has to happen.
First of all, I think the trial is stupid. I think it's counterproductive.
Democrats say Mr. Trump must be held accountable.
The theory that the Senate can't try former officials would amount to a constitutional get-out-of-jail-free card for any president.
The trial will begin the week of February 8th. Unlike last year's trial, Chief Justice John Roberts will not preside. That duty now falls to the Senate pro tempore, Democrat Patrick Leahy. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Some Republicans say Leahy shouldn't be both a judge and jury. They also question the constitutionality of holding a trial for a former president, even though there is precedent for impeaching former officials. President Joe Biden is expected to announce an economic recovery plan during next month's address to a joint session of Congress. No word on what the final price tag will be, but the president says it will feature historic investments. We already know President Biden wants nearly $2 trillion in another stimulus bill. Right now, it's a stalemate. Most Republicans feel it's too expensive, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who says he's against another round of stimulus checks. A Montana Police Department is investing in some new equipment designed to restrain an individual without the use of force. MTN's Gabby Crevitt tells us why officials say when used appropriately, this tool can make all the difference.
What sounds like a gunshot is actually some of the latest technology in law enforcement and military equipment. It's called the BLLINGS 100, and the idea is to restrain an individual from a distance without physically injuring them. Belgrade PD began training officers on the BLLINGS earlier this month.
It's a handheld device that deploys an 8-foot Kevlar cord with a barbed pellet at each end, and the intent is to entangle or restrain somebody by grasping onto their clothing and limiting their movement.
The BLLINGS is designed to wrap around the individual's legs or arms, restraining them but not injuring them. So I gave it a try. wearing a taser suit just to make sure my clothes didn't get damaged. Chief of Police E.J. Clark says the equipment itself isn't too complicated. A laser pointer on the device lets you know where the wrap will shoot onto the target. Whoa! Chief Clark says people having a mental health crisis might be a potential situation where the bowler wrap can come in handy.
We don't want to hurt them. We got to get them to help. How do you control them without hurting them? Sometimes that doesn't work out. So this is just another option for that.
The bowler wrap device runs for around $1,200 a piece, and the cartridges around $35. But Chief Clark says this is well worth the investment if it means promoting de-escalation and reduced use of force within the agency.
Concern of police use of force has been an issue nationwide of discussion, and Belgrade is just looking for alternatives to higher levels of use of force, so that this gives us more appropriate intermediary uses of force that we can use as the situation dictates. You approach, you're going to get in a physical altercation. But if you can lock up their arms, lock up their feet, they can't run away, they can't move their arms, you take them to the ground, you handcuff them, and you got them under control where there's no punches and kicks and things like that. So that's the whole purpose of it.
Reporting in Belgrade, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.